Hey, what's going on everyone? So it's been a little while now and I think it's time that we reevaluate the Space Reworks and see which ones were good and which ones were bad. So we'll start off with Kelvin, of course. She used to be one of the worst units in the game, but she was a fan favorite and probably the most memed character of anyone, but now she's actually quite good. She got a new ability which can give damage block 2 to a target hero, and it can cleanse some debuff. So this is a great ability. However, currently Kelvin's AI is pretty bad, and she'll typically give this to anyone. It's very rarely actually given to a tank when she's under AI control, which is very strange because, like I mentioned in my last video, units like Gorwell and Yuppie have typically given their abilities to units that actually needed them. However, with this update, Exa pointed out to me that those two characters are broken as well now, and they're no longer giving their attack buffs to attackers. So it's very possible that this is a bug, and it might get fixed for Gorwell and Yuppie as well as Kelvin. So her AI may be saved after all, but currently she's not the best for defense. But she also now has this much better pep reduction ability that will actually deal damage now, and overall her kit is just much better, including her passive ability. You can see I already have mine at gear 7, as well as my Commander Cold. I'm slowly working towards getting my full chill team to level 60 gear 7. I mean, that's one thing to note about this space update. A lot of these characters are now going to work well with their sub-tags. So now like Kartovsky and Jens will work very well with the Techie tag, and Commander Cold and Kelvin are going to work quite well in a chill team. Some of these other tags like Blacktron and Alien are not quite as fleshed out yet, but maybe in the future they will see more action. Second, let's go ahead and talk about Commander Cold. He also got some really nice touch-ups that just made him more effective in general. He also got the damage block. He'll have a 70% chance to give it to heroes with 50% or less health, but 100% chance to space heroes, and typically you're going to run him in a space or chill team, so a lot of units are going to get this damage block 1. But if they already had the damage block, instead they get damage immunity for 2 turns, and I don't see too many people talking about this, but if you time it correctly, you can actually get Locus to have this damage immunity while he's taunting, which means he takes 0 damage from all incoming attacks, and since he's taunting, he just completely protects your entire team. So this can be a very effective ability if played correctly. Again, I don't think the AI is going to exactly play this right, but if you're able to do it, it is very, very nice. And then yeah, the rest of his kit just got a couple little tweaks that just made him a bit better, and of course he has that very good Dizzy synergy which works quite well with Yeti and other chill characters. Next, let's talk about Locus. He also got a really solid rework. His ultimate now does way more damage and just became a bit more effective. He can now dispel taunts with his taunt ability, and he just does more damage in general, and of course he can give that attack up too on this ability. So overall, he just got some minor tweaks that just makes him a more effective unit, and now he also has this chance to inflict brick when he's damaged while he has taunt, which just helps to do a little bit more damage to the enemy team. So again, pretty decent rework here, nothing too insane. Next, we have Gorwell and Kartovsky. I don't personally have either one of these two characters unlocked, but from what I've heard from people who do have them unlocked, the Gorwell tweak was nice but not too noticeable, and the Kartovsky rework was pretty nice but still doesn't make him a meta character. He's still not too effective, and you're probably going to want to use a different unit in his place, especially after Jens is released. Jens is going to make a big difference to the space lineup. Currently, we're not seeing too many space teams in Arena, and I think that's partially because not too many people have been farming space, but also because we don't have Jens. And I think he's going to make a big difference and add a lot more damage to the team and a lot more control. I mean, his ultimate alone is going to do quite a bit of damage. And also, Gorwell being more accessible will help a lot as well, because she, of course, is a great healer and can also help the team do more damage and be a bit faster. Also, Quincy is quite nice for healing. He's been helping out quite a bit. Personally, if I were to run a full space team right now, I would basically leave out Dwayne and just run everyone else. So the 4 free-to-play farmable characters minus Dwayne plus Quincy, because you should be able to get Quincy pretty high from this brick pace, even if you're not spending. I mean, I got my Quincy to 5 stars by spending all my event currency on him, and I would say less than 10 energy refreshes with just the gems that I get each day, and yeah, I was able to get up to 5 stars, so not too bad right there. I plan to use him in the upcoming Space Master event and not using Dwayne. So speaking of Dwayne, Dwayne, let's talk about him, because I've got a lot to say about Dwayne. So Dwayne's kind of my guy. I was hoping he would get a really solid rework, and initially when it was announced, I was very excited. Then we got the kit reveals, and it didn't look that great, and you could hear the disappointment in my voice during that kit reveal video. But I was still holding out hope for Quincy and the Outpost, because I figured that they would give some pretty strong synergies, especially after this comment here from Abo. However, we then got the kits, and initially it was like, okay, there is some synergies, and I just thought, alright, we'll have to wait till they're actually in the game to see how they function. But then like a couple days later, I read through those kits again, and there's really nothing there that helps Dwayne. In Quincy's kit, there's no mention of Dwayne or even any mention of Blacktron units, and the only synergy Dwayne really gets with Quincy is with his passive ability, where whenever Dwayne critically hits, if Quincy is active, Dwayne will get critical damage up 2 for 2 turns. Okay, so Quincy has to be there, and then Dwayne has to critically hit, and only then he'll gain critical damage up 2, which will just help him do slightly more damage when he lands critical hits to enemies. So that's not a huge buff, that's not really a great bit of synergy right there, especially because Quincy is a brick-based character, which is pretty expensive if you want to get them to 7 stars. And then the Outpost is pretty hilarious. It's one of the worst sets in the game, I would actually say right now. So let's just quickly go through each of these abilities, and I'll just recap what each one does. The first one will basically give units a small chance to gain attack up 1, and a higher chance for Blacktron heroes to gain attack up 2, which may sound good, but Locust will give attack up 2 at the start of the battle anyway, since he is typically going to go very early because he's a fast character, and then he'll use his AoE ability and give everyone on the team attack up 2. So this is largely a very useless ability, especially with Locust in the team. The second ability gives a very slight chance to space heroes to inflict defense down when they attack a foe, and Blacktron has a slightly higher chance to inflict defense down too. See, defense down isn't exactly the greatest debuff because it completely depends on the opponent's defense. If they have a really high defense, it will help more than if they have a low defense, and most units don't have super high defense numbers. And either way, getting defense down 2, even on a character like Scarlet, will certainly help, but those kind of units gain so much defense anyway, it'll kind of cancel out and it won't make too much of a difference. So largely a not super useful ability here. And the third ability is almost worse than that. There is a 50% chance whenever hero attacks to inflict a stack of damage over time if the foe had less than 30% health. Now that's not too helpful, it will be a little bit of extra damage, but typically if they're that low, they're probably pretty close to dying anyway. So I don't know, that ability's not the greatest, especially considering this set starts with tier 2 set tools at 45 each. So it probably really quickly goes to tier 3s and then probably tier 4s after that. And there are 4 abilities here that probably all need a lot of tier 3s and tier 4s, let alone just the tier 2s. So it's a very expensive set for abilities that aren't that great. And then the fourth ability is really the only other one that gives some more synergy with Dwayne, and is basically whenever a space hero defeats a foe, they'll copy some buffs to themselves, and then have a 35% chance to gain critical chance up 1. And if a Blacktron hero defeats a foe, they'll still have a 35% chance to gain critical chance up, but instead it's critical chance up 2 instead of crit chance up 1. So this is weird because it basically relies on Dwayne or Quincy doing the finishing attack to a unit and actually killing them, and even then there's only a 35% chance to gain that crit chance up 2. And it's only crit chance up 1 if it's not a Blacktron unit. So basically Dwayne might have a chance to gain critical chance up or critical chance up 2, which is way less likely to possibly land more critical hits, which will possibly do more damage if he got the crit damage up 2 from Quincy. I think you see where I'm going with this, but basically they swapped out certain good parts of his kit for some crit damage, crit chance synergy, which isn't really that great. I was hoping that they would take the existing elements of his kit, like the 30% extra damage to stunned enemies and the pep reduction, and make those better instead of completely swapping them out for some pretty bad crit damage synergy. So that was obviously very underwhelming, but I still had one hope left, and that was Dwayne's Gear 7 stats. And they came, and I looked quickly, and unfortunately Dwayne got the Grit Grand Gear piece. This is probably the worst gear piece in the entire game as far as the Grand Gear pieces go. 24 Grit. it gives him a slightly higher chance to resist more debuffs, and that's basically it. And the rest of his gear pieces aren't that great either. If he had a lot of attack ones, he might be pretty effective, but no, he got pretty poor gear 7 gear as well. So overall, I feel like they definitely nerfed him. They removed some good elements from his kit in exchange for some weird crit damage and crit chance synergy, which really only functions with Quincy and the Outpost there, who are both brick paste characters or brick paste farms, which means they're going to be quite expensive to max, let alone the abilities on the actual Outpost itself. It'll be quite a bit if you want to actually max those. So it seems weird to take the tiny bit of viability that Dwayne actually had left and spread it between those two brick paste characters. But oh well, I guess there's not much we can do. Dwayne is just going to remain a pretty bad unit for quite some time, I guess. So if you are a new player or a new-ish player and you have unlocked Quincy from this event, which shouldn't be too difficult, as I mentioned earlier, I recommend completely ignoring Dwayne and instead just farming Cold, Kelvin, Reed, Locust, and keep gearing up Quincy. Even at 3 and 4 stars, Quincy is going to have some decent healing if you use his abilities correctly, which in the end will be way better than Dwayne, and actually Quincy at 4 stars will typically do more damage than Dwayne at 7. My Dwayne, I haven't been able to do more than 3,000 damage since his rework, when before his rework I was doing well over 4,000 consistently with his second special ability against units that did have stun. So yeah, I do think he's been nerfed, so you can pretty much ignore him now if you have unlocked Quincy. But overall, I feel like Space has gotten a lot better, especially Commander Cold and Kelvin, with the chill synergies and some nice techie synergies with Kartovsky. And of course, Jens is going to be very powerful as well once he is released alongside the raid. And also, getting more access to Goro will also make Space teams more effective. And I think in general, while Space is currently not the meta, it is possible to counter some meta teams with Space. And I think they do have a pretty good chance at being an effective team, especially after Gens and Goro, like I mentioned, become accessible. So that's about it for this one. Just kind of wanted to reevaluate the Space reworks after they've been out for a little while now. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.